Elliot Keck joins me, investigation and campaign manager for the Taxpayers Alliance. So, Elliot, basically, the allowance is £325,000 for the individual, after which, once they've died, their estate, you pay 40% tax. But there is an add-on of nearly 200 grand if it's a primary house that is being left either to children or grandchildren. Nieces, nephews, others don't count. But, of course, if it's a married couple, you know, one spouse dies, but actually his or her allowance. So, actually, the argument that many will give as to why the tax is reasonable is actually, you know, the surviving parent dies, up to £1 million can go without tax. That's the argument you're going to get against this campaign that's been relaunched by 50 MPs, with the Telegraph newspaper getting strongly behind it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reason why there are so many of these exemptions is because of actually how cruel inheritance tax can be. It's a tax that's unfair, distortionary and deeply unpopular. And it's the unpopularity that is absolutely stunning when you look at the statistics. The Treasury made a big thing today in their comment to the Telegraph about how only around 7% of estates will pay inheritance tax, and yet 50% of the British public think this tax is unfair. This is a tax that a lot of those 50% of people will never, ever have to pay, and yet they still look at this and they think these are people that have saved up all their lives, that have paid tax on every single pound that they've earned, every single pound that they've spent, and yet having accrued that wealth, having worked hard, they're suddenly going to lose half of anything over, you know, a relatively arbitrary amount.
Obviously, the house is very often the primary asset that people leave when they die, but there are many other things, too, that come into consideration, aren't there? Yeah,
exactly, and there's so many different exemptions. So, you know, you can give your money away, but as long as you don't die within 7 years. There's a really, really interesting and bizarre exemption that I think you'll quite like. If you give money to a political party, then that is exempt from inheritance tax. But that political party has to have at least one seat and over 150,000 votes. That means that if you give money to Plaid Cymru, that will be exempt from inheritance tax. But if you give money to the Brexit Party, which had 4 times as many votes as the Plaid Cymru, that won't be exempt.
I've lived through all of this.
So you have all of these utterly bizarre exemptions that people can fiddle in order to try and reduce what is a very cruel and unfair burden.
Yeah, I think there is a perception that people have paid that money already. They shouldn't pay it again. The super rich get out of it anyway because they have effective tax planning. But let's be honest, Elliot. These 50 MPs... they're the same 50 MPs that argue for free markets. They're the same 50 MPs that argue that Brexit's being wrecked and not being done properly. They're the same 50 MPs that say that open-door mass immigration on the level it is not doing the country much good. But with the way the Conservative Party has gone, they're very much in a minority.
Well, they seem to be in a minority at the moment, but, you know, this is one of those genuine taxes where actually it's unbelievably unfair. This is not a tax where I'm coming on this show to say it's bad for the economy, and I hope people realise this. But actually, you look at the opinion polls, and you know maybe they point one way. You could point to something like a windfall tax, where you know maybe there is actually a residual popularity despite the negative impact it has. This is a tax that even that people don't pay realise just how unfair it is.
What are the political chances of? And by the way, I'd get rid of it. It's complicated. It actually drags in, particularly in Greater London and the South, it drags in all sorts of people that certainly aren't rich by any, you know, real definition of that.
Yeah, 40% of houses last year would qualify for inheritance tax.
I mean, you know, absolutely.
Yeah.
But politically, this isn't going to happen, is it?
Well, I don't know about that. You know, the Conservatives are going to have to try and do something to win the next election, and bringing that historic tax burden down is one way to do it. And, you know, when you've got a tax that is so deeply unfair, you never know. It's been a vote winner in the past. It's the reason why Gordon Brown didn't go to an election in 2007. It was a big, big play for the Conservatives in 2010, even if they didn't really implement it. So, you know, it's a proven vote winner in the past.
I don't know about didn't really implement it. Yet another promise they made that they didn't actually keep. Let's see. It would be popular. I don't believe they're going to do it. But the great thing, Elliot Keck, about people is, as young as you, is you've still got your optimism.
Well, exactly.
You get a bit
that's all we've got now.
You get a bit more cynical. Thank you.